Welcome to Act 2 You're On. Join us weekly at our studio roundtable as Rhonda, Kate, and Linda invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy. Launch your next great act with authenticity and purpose. Summon your courage, superstar, and step into the limelight. So grab a coffee
or a martini
and let's set the stage for a grand entrance. It's Act 2.
You're on. Greetings, friends. My name is Linda Ty, and I have the great pleasure of podcasting today with my dynamic team,
Rhonda Garvin-Conaway.
And I'm Kate Levy, and we are also joined by our talented producers, Susan Nagel and Kathy Carswell.
Wonderful. So I am really thrilled today here at the A2YO studio to be talking to Dr. David Ajibade. And we like to talk to innovators and influencers here on our podcast, and Dr. David is just that. He has created a true heart-centered movement to provide sustainable healthcare solutions for individuals and brain disorders and life-limiting chronic diseases. So, in thinking about your work, David, I know I enjoy normal and pretty vibrant health. I grew up with no worries about my health. I didn't know anyone who worried about their health. I believe that health is at the center of everything. If you don't have your health, everything else really doesn't matter. And there are millions of people, children, who do not know what that feels like to be fully healthy. Many suffer with severe diseases with little hope for a better life. And today we are going to talk about raising awareness and how you can maybe contribute to that awareness if you feel moved to do so. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Dr. David Ajibade is the Executive Director of Brain and Body Foundation. It's a 501(c)(3) organization or C3 organization based both in Nigeria and the USA, and focus on educating the Nigerian public on important health issues, providing innovative, practical, and safe solutions to challenging health conditions, and on alleviating the suffering of medically fragile children, especially those diagnosed with severe brain disorders, genetic disorders, and sickle cell disease. BBF holds free clinics every Friday for children from low-income homes. The Brain Body Foundation has recently been commissioned by the Nigerian government to carry out a landmark study on sickle cell disease to markedly change the way it's treated in Nigeria and around the world. Dr. Ajibade currently hosts and presents a weekly TV show entitled Your Health is in Your Hands, an innovative show focused on educating the Nigerian public on health matters of special importance to people of African, specifically Black African origin. This 30-minute segment, which is the third most viewed show on Africa's largest television network, highlights issues affecting Africans and Nigerians in particular, including mental health, brain disorders, cardiovascular concerns, cancer, and is viewed at least 5 times a week by millions, both within and outside the country. Through the media, live seminars, training, and partnerships, he is focused on bringing his experience, expertise, and connections to improving the delivery of healthcare in Nigeria and the health of Nigerians as a whole. Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you be here today.
Thanks for having me on.
So I want to just start off by talking about you, a little bit about your path. On the A2YO podcast, we talk a lot about transitions, reinventions. And I know that when you went into medicine, you did not want to go into pediatrics. And yet now you are working primarily with children and children with sickle cell disease. So tell us, how did sickle cell disease and pediatrics really become your charge?
Well, thank you, Linda. Yes, that was the first thing in medical school. I was like, no way, I could not face this. I mean, you see the kids coming into the emergency room and I'm like, these kids have done nothing wrong. And yet they're coming down with cancer, coming down with sickle cell disease, coming down with other conditions. And I was like, man, and then the parents are there being so worried, and my heart just went out to them. I was like, I didn't think I could live with myself if I made a mistake and these kids died at a tender age. So, and it was so complicated having to calculate the doses and get it right. And I was like, no. I'm going to do something more, less technical, maybe something like neurosurgery. But I've always loved the brain. And ever since I've been a child, I loved Ben Carson. He was one of my idols. So I knew I was going to be doing something with the brain, and actually started my career in radiation oncology. So I've had several different pathways, and And then while I was treating, that was back in Nigeria. I still felt I was going to be in the neuro brain field. But while I was in Nigeria, starting my career, my residency in radiation oncology, I think that was when what I'm doing began to shape, to form in my heart and my mind. Because with cancer, I mean, it's a terminal disease, so to speak, and we could see that people, the states, the setting, the mindset, the beliefs, the words people had or spoke, their relationships with others played a huge role in whether or not they survived their treatment or whether or not they went on to live a long, healthy life. And I began to feel that, well, we could, if we worked on people from the inside, at the same time while we're working on people on the outside with the chemotherapy and radiotherapy, we could make a huge difference. So that's kind of like what's switched me to what we're doing today. And of course, like I said, I still wanted to maintain my brain, focus on the brain. So to cut a long story short, I was in the US for 10 years. I went back to Nigeria, started a foundation called the Brain and Body Foundation, which, like you mentioned, is specifically for kids. Initially, it was for kids with brain disorders, strictly brain disorders like cerebral palsy, autism, and we're doing really well with that. But in the process, children with sickle cell disease started coming because they were having strokes. Found out later that 10% of kids with sickle cell disease have strokes before the age of 15. So that took us into the whole world of sickle cell disease, and it's been an interesting journey since then.
Wow. Yeah, I'll say. So, tell us a little bit about your practice in Nigeria. So what is it like in the day-to-day working with these kids?
We see a lot of different kids. Like, I mean, so Fridays are the free clinics, right? So that's when people from low-income areas come to our center, and it's usually like a marketplace because people come from because they hear about what we're doing. And so it's quite interesting because people come with different reasons. And it kind of like highlights the tragedy of healthcare in a third world country. Most of these people don't have insurance, like and they have nowhere else to go. They can barely make the transportation to the office, but they're so grateful. And once they come back, you give them the treatment, they come back after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, after 4 weeks, you actually see the difference. And that's exhilarating to people like me because many of these conditions, when I was a medical student, we were told that they were impossible to treat. And that's the best you could do is just let them have physical therapy and hope for the best. But even without that, we're seeing that simply by providing their brains with the building blocks, nutrients, in the right doses, in the right amounts, at the right time, you can see significant improvement. And because they're kids, they have a lot more reserves and they can do a lot better than adults. And yes, adults can be helped as well. And we're transitioning to adults as well. But I think the best results we see in kids. So it's very gratifying.
Mm. And tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I know at least in this country, when you're in medical school, you're not learning about providing kids with vitamin D or fish oils, or you're not learning that sort of inner root cause of disease. You're more in the emergency mode. Like once you have the disease, this is what we have to do, like you said. And so talk to us about how did you shift to figuring that out and doing the work that you're doing?
Oh, great. So yeah, that's an interesting question. So when I was here initially in the early 2000s, like I said, I was here for about 10 years, and we stumbled upon webinars. Initially, we were doing conference calls. Then we stumbled upon webinars. This was like 2007, 2008, way before Zoom came on the scene, right? And we started, my business partner and I, we started with, we felt we could reach a lot more people. And also we could connect with healthcare professionals, people, scientists, doctors who were in the cutting edge of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. And they were targeted in one area. For instance, some would be targeted on the immune system, creating supplements that help to strengthen the immune system. Another group of people will be focused on the hormones, another group of people on the brain. So we were able to attract all these people to come do 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long seminars, and people around the world would type in their questions and then they would answer them. So it was while we were doing that I learned a lot. And that was when my eyes were opened to these things. And I was like, wow, these are things that we could use back home, especially where at home in third world countries where, like I said, you don't have access to top medical care and medical diagnostic equipment and so on and so forth. They have nothing. And so I was like, every time I heard these people talk on these webinars, I would be like, you know what, let's try. This could be something we could apply back home. This is something we could, and it's safe. It's not like you have to worry about toxicity. For most of them, you don't have to worry about toxicity. It's just, you just have to worry about your purse or your wallet. And so I just began to say, well, let's try this. And then when I went back home to Nigeria, we would say, kid would come with this problem. And I would say, well, I have this immune support something. Let's try this. And I would call the makers, the people who created these immune support in the US. And I would say, oh, hey, listen, I have this kid with this problem. Can we try this? And they would instruct me. So they became my mentors remotely and showed me how to do these things. So it was, like I said, it was an interesting journey. We began to learn how to apply what they were saying theoretically in a true third world setting.
That is really incredible. And what's amazing, part of the amazing thing about your story is trained as a medical doctor, but this brilliant idea of yours and this brilliant treatments that you're now giving these kids came out of poverty and having nothing. Like, what do you do when you have nothing? And that's, to me, that's very inspiring, because you always think that when we want to accomplish a big thing, we have to have, tons of resources or something different to do it. But it actually was born out of this not having. And so you were providing a way for that to happen. I think that's really stunning.
But this work must also require lots of fundraising. So what kind of partners or investors do you have, or are you looking for as you help move this vision forward?
Oh, thank you. Great question. So a lot of it initially had come out of my pocket, and the companies were donating the little they had to donate, they would donate. But we definitely, especially for this, what we're doing is just a drop in the bucket. So for this project, we are trying to raise about $200,000 for a 6-month project to demonstrate in the government. We're going to partner with government hospitals and have the patients from those government hospitals take these nutrients and record objectively the results that they're getting, so that the government doctors and the government establishment can see that what we're doing can be applied or should be applied across the board. There are over 4 million people with sickle cell disease in Nigeria alone, and half of the 200,000 that are being born will not survive past their 5th birthday. So, like I said, what we're doing is just a tiny drop in the bucket. But if we can get doctors and other healthcare professionals, to adopt the same approach, then I think we could be able to make a dent in the universe somehow. Mm-hmm. And so the first step is to do the research so that we can create the compelling evidence or produce the compelling evidence to show doctors and the medical authorities that this is what needs to be done and we can save lives. So that's at this point we've had some friends here and there help out, but we're really looking for institutional big organizations that can say, yeah, here's a crumb of $1 million, for instance.
So you must be dividing your time between doing all the medical work and research and setting and guiding the vision, and also having to do this work, fundraising and getting support. Do you ever sleep? How's your sleep, David?
I try to prioritize that. So
yeah, that is important. So when you get back to Nigeria, what do you want to have in place? What do you have to have in place in terms of the work that you're doing right now to build a coalition of backing, support, awareness? What's your push right now?
Well, it's most of the infrastructure is in place, so we just need if we can raise $50,000 for starters, we can start the project right away and get it going, because everything else is in place.
These are incredible ventures that you are on. And I think what I'm struck with right now is this theme of learning, like the learning that has to be done as a practitioner, the research that's required to tackle sickle cell disease. And I'm thinking about folks who might be listening who want to learn and understand better. Can we go back and think about those kids? What is it like when they come to you and they have their treatment and that process and what happens after? Help us to understand the significance of what you're doing and how it directly affects the children.
Thank you. Great question. It's significant because these. It's not just about saving lives. It's also about the quality of life. I like to say sickle cell disease is like having terminal cancer and then having bouts of shingles once a week or twice a week. It's very painful. In fact, people who have women who have been pregnant and delivered children they say that their crises are worse than having labor pains or delivering a child. So it is a very debilitating condition. So it's like I said, it's not just about saving their lives. It's about creating hope and helping them have a future and helping them feel they can become doctors or lawyers or entrepreneurs or present whatever, that many of them don't have a future. So you're really creating a whole new world for them, not just saving their lives. So we can really change that, and it's so simple. It's so easy to do if you think about nutrients. You just think in the direction of nutrients. So, and of course, think about the capacity of the human body to heal and to repair itself. And that's really what I want to point out: is the capacity of the human body to heal and repair itself once it's given the right tools.
So can it? So these nutrients are boosting their immune system. Is that the main function of what they're doing? And then how does that, can it reverse it completely, or is it, more just right now able to help them live a more healthy, normal life, and of course live a longer life? Because it sounds like a lot of these kids don't even make it to age 5.
Yeah. So it's a genetic condition, so it can't reverse it. But it certainly, what it does is that it helps the body compensate for that problem and work around. I think that's the term. Work around the issue. It optimizes the parts that are left that are working well, so it helps them work better. Yes, immune system is one. That's the first way to do it, and we found that works especially for the younger age groups. Now, if a child has had complications or there's significant damage, there are other nutrients that we found out that can help, and we address those as well. But our priority now is in saving those lives first and stopping this terrible statistic of 100,000 plus people dying every year before the age of 5.
There's so much hope in your mission. I'm curious, where does the challenge lie? What's the obstacle that you're facing, and how do you handle that?
Well, two things. The medical establishment themselves, because we think in terms, when I say we talk about with medical establishment, we think in terms of medications and high-tech research. And when I talk about supplementation, you see the eyes roll. So you got to overcome that, for one. And then, of course, the other one, obviously, again, we keep coming back to it. This is the finances. Once we can get all the things in place to do a proper international standard protocol, once we get that done, it'll be a lot easier to have the other things happen.
So we often talk here about the can't, the how, the why. I think we understand the can't, and I think we understand the why, but how? So how do our listeners, how does the world help affect change? Like, is there a game changer? Like, what's the thing that'll turn the tide? Is there one thing?
Knowledge, I guess. It's knowledge, and that's what we try to do with all the social media and TV and all that. If people understood that, then we could go a long way.
Yeah. So awareness. And financial support.
And financial support for sure.
Yeah, and a shift in allopathic thinking. Yeah, really. I mean, I'm a holistic health practitioner, and so I understand what you're saying when the medical establishment does roll their eyes at supplementation and natural means of healing. And there's a list of reasons why that is, but anyway, I really admire that you stepped out as a medical doctor to say, this is really effective, this really works, and I'm going to put my heart and soul into it. It's incredible that you invested your own money. I mean, it's just you're an amazing person. It's amazing that you have started this, and you started a foundation, and you have this mission. It's really, the world is blessed to have you be on that path.
You've also stepped into work that that instinctively at first you didn't want, because it's just so hard. It just must be heartbreaking. But you obviously have something that inspires you and keeps you doing this work. So on behalf of a weary world, we thank you. But it's, I think it's such it's very inspiring to talk to you. And I hope that I know that our listeners are going to be intrigued. They're going to want to learn more. And I have to imagine during a pandemic, it must be particularly brutal to try to fundraise.
Yes, definitely some challenges with travel and getting people together either in a room or online. Yeah, that it has made it a little bit more difficult. But hey, you got to roll with the punches, right? You got to do what we can do to make it happen. So.
Yep. And I think that, you're doing a television program, doing podcasts like this, get the word out, and hopefully you start getting into the ears of the people who can help make a change. So we're going to do our part to try to get this out, and we see if we know people and what we can do. What can we do? What can 3 individuals or our listeners do? We might not have the big financial backing, but what can we do?
Well, thank you. So we have a text to donate feature that's text SCD to 44321. That's the text address to 44321, and you can just follow the prompts. We would really appreciate a monthly commitment, whatever amount. That helps us to plan ahead to be able to know what we can do. So, but any amount would be really appreciated. And of course, spread the word. Share on social media as the Brain and Body Foundation. So if you would like our pages and share our pages, and we're constantly putting out testimonials and videos from parents and children who have had significant improvement from this. And I also do a lot of talks myself, short videos too. So if you could go on there, share that with other people, and encourage other people to donate as well, I would really appreciate it.
We'll have all of that information in our newsletters, and absolutely we can certainly do that part.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We're so proud to be able to support people like yourself doing this good work. And I would love to just talk to you a little bit. Kate said, do you sleep? But honestly, when one does the kind of work you do, and I bet there are people listening who are thinking, I want to do this big thing. How do you take care of you so you're not falling out and can keep the engine moving, keep the system going? What's the secret there? Help us to all learn from your modeling.
I think everybody's different, but the key things I always want to say, you got to prioritize your sleep, because if that falls apart, everything else will fall apart. I do sleep 6 to 7 hours a day, so that's pretty cool. They say 8, but that's supplementation. You got to be supplementing, especially with COVID-19 all around us. Vitamin D, especially more for Black people, because we're more deficient. You got to take your vitamin D, your C, and your zinc. And I take much higher doses than what is recommended, because the research is beginning to show that we need more than just 400 or 800 international units. I also take some things for my brain. I take supplements for my immune system, even for my hormones. Yes, men have hormones too. And all these need to be regulated. I think people just assume that if you eat a balanced diet, you'll be okay. That's not true. You've got to just purposefully put in nutrients that will help to not just repair the damage that is constantly being done, but also optimize the key systems in your body.
That is awesome.
Could not agree more with that, for sure.
All right, so much wisdom. And here's where we throw one of my favorite questions out, which is, if you had one thing to share, a golden nugget of wisdom for people who are ready to do their next great thing, their next great idea, or something about your experience that you would offer, what would it be?
Phew, that's a good one. I would say, make the most of opportunities. If you're able to recognize an opportunity, know that opportunities don't come every day. And when someone offers you an opportunity, think about it. Take some time to think about it and see how it fits into your skills, your talents, your experience, your passions, your desires, and then grab hold of it. Work on it for a week or so before you discard it. So I would say that just don't let them just slide by. I think all of us have missed it in that boat, but that's one thing I think what the world teaches us: make the most of opportunities.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, love that.
And I have the regrettable task of being the timekeeper, which means we are almost at the end of our time together, David. But before we go, we wonder what is coming next for you and your foundation.
That's all I can think of right now is getting this research thing done. And then I also want to start being on TV here too, and sharing information, because I see a lot of, especially for Black people, there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to health, and I think there are many diseases that are really taking us apart. So I would really like to share information about that as well.
Great, love that. Well. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for, we're really grateful for your wisdom, your heart, your heart-centered mission. It's just amazing. And we are grateful to be part of, a little part of sharing what you're doing and raising awareness. So thank you so much. It's been a really great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. You've been very gracious.
Thank you, Dr. David Ajibade. If you want to learn more, www.brainandbodyfoundation.org. And also, David, would you repeat for us that text information if folks are interested in supporting? Say that again for us. That would be super helpful.
Sure. Text SCD, sickle cell disease, to 44321, 44321.
Fabulous. And of course, you can also find this good doctor on LinkedIn and Facebook.
And I should say a special thanks to our skilled producers behind the scene, Kathy Carswell and Susan Nagel.
And so it is left for me to say, go forth, be brave, live well, and do good, because it's Act 2, you're on.
Act 2 You're On was brought to you by Act 2 Share Our Stage.
You can find us at a2yo.com and also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Please listen and subscribe wherever you find your podcast. You can support us using Patreon. Thanks for listening.